fellow Americans and people of Connecticut especially, there are doctors who have badges, inter-services, who are recorded, like ones with the name Leahy, are involved personally and professionally with judges and prosecutors, and with a CRT place, Community Resources Training place, connected with the Britain Superior Courts people and Hartford Courts people and Connecticut's District Court people, with people next to the judicial branch offices of Connecticut through time, increasingly roles of predicate acts, and next to the corrections offices, as one's also next to the Department of Education. The Department of Education has roles with mayors and people associated with mayors in the past of Wethersfield, who have roles with predicate acts with Foxct, Connecticut News, WFSB, and WTNH that have been they planted evidences with a principal child offender, a principal being, and they hid other things. They're changing the digital, which actually digitally recorded. They have been attaching kids and through their whole lives, and then adults, and planting evidences on all sides of the kids' houses, with the ones planting evidences, predicate acts, right into the databases at campuses. They've been pretending fake audio and video. I never saw Eric Burgess on the campus of Central Connecticut State University in my life. I didn't respond to the nonverbal confirmations of a dean judge, family members. And it's a federal crime to pretend to be them. But before the World Trade Center attack, co-defendants, a former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, and their family members, they've been hiding because they had live aggressions intercities through time tied to West Hartford locations, and a body dumping spot of a serial killer. And that serial killer, who's in a prison at Sandy Hook, he was collusion at those spots where he's reportedly had his bodies dumped with the people next to it too, as the ones with the courts involved with the Department of Education in the spots next to it, with Foxct Connecticut News. And names next to Foxct Connecticut News are differentially the ones involved with federal, wire crimes with them, whole wire crime methods with them. And then they pretend it's personally too. It's personal. The WFSB has collusions with them as the roles. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others, and about the World Trade Center attack at the same time as they were forcing the principal child abuser. And they fabricated and changed digital evidences and phone transcripts. And they pretended through the news that I had conversations with the police when I was a kid that weren't at all. And definitely not at the police station with police support. And no police came here. I thought we told them we didn't want to speak with them. The kids who did speak with them are ones recorded increasingly involved with federal evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders. Or Chris Walters, that was their way of pretending he knew me. I only other time I knew him was at a Tiger Cubs. And then I went to one Cub Scout meeting, increasingly a Sal Civiello and the other kid that was there. I never had class with the other kid. And Sal Civiello's neighbors increasingly have roles with body dumping spots and various natures of federal criminals and their family members, some of them as co-defendants of one former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, and their neighbors are also involved, and their lawyer. Before the World Trade Center attack, I asked for help because the Hartford courts and their family members in intimate ties with foreign and domestic military families made confessions, requests to help to me relative to their uses of location/S that also people I didn't know when I was a kid made confessions to me. And they simultaneously communicated their roles with an O'Brien family. There's an O'Brien family with various police departments involved with the Colello family and the DeMoro family, and a whole bunch of ties to them with police forms that have been planting evidences on all sides of my house. And they have roles with some untimely deaths and federal crimes, identity thefts and frauds with a Rob Rodriguez. And people associated with mayors. There's people associated with the former mayors next to the Department of Education who also have roles with Saudis. They forced the collusions with them, and Saudi attackers forced them to collusions too, because there was also there are roles within another name involved. For example, the name of a scientific value, a breaching method. Our founders communicated for us to blame certain things on the breaching method that prevented them free speech, but made everyone speak anyway, so they could measure and maintain collusions with people against their own people. Otherwise, that body would be censored, including if it was a majority of people, including if it was everyone black pupils. These are also recorded on Facebook, some black KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, and Latino themed. There are Mendez police who have fake roles when they were kids. I never even had class with them, with the names that were putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, did little tricks to make it look fake exceptions, which is relative. In other words, they're using fake exceptions as criminal insidiousness nature, as we're going to be able to discern relative to the predicate acts, the wire crime acts, and whole methods of them, and pretending other. So there were a whole bunch of fake stories that were recorded, and there are people that are using that as evidence. Where and how to they use all natures of investigators remotely criminally foreign influence, and the difference is right through Republican and Democratic administrations. It is recorded that the legal voices are incapable of defending the law as they've been taught to and persuaded to in the past already, and of affording and defending themselves and affording to be, let alone to protect unobstructed voices. So they have roles with maths, identity theft, fraud, slanders. Also, lawyers of the F.B.I. and of Wethersfield police intercities have roles with recorded criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, rot readings of statutes, including as collusions with the difference between public television and the news media with this. They're also, that's how they're keeping like algorithms controlled from off them. A Joshua Julian is on Facebook page of the principal child sex offender before he was caught as one of the ones who forced that. Also has threats and roles and confessions regarding his roles with predicate acts on my street and with people that recorded him involved with them in the past with home break-ins relative. In other words, and with the police forms, there was a home break-in years ago, and people associated with confessions tied to a corner, which a home wasn't broken into, but then a house at that corner was broken into. And there are a whole bunch of people tied to a Kevin Dillon, and a guy who said he was his partner to my speech class, one of my speech class teachers. The reason I had to take another speech class teacher again, too, the other speech class teacher, and them, they have roles with Washington, D.C. a bunch of ways, not just with former director of the F.B.I., Robert Luskin, his co-defendants in a 2006 district court case, which is increasingly recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the people next to Foxct Connecticut News and WFSB who have roles with predicate acts, putting fake things in the databases between campuses and making self-valid rules with that can't go back and afford to discern what it was and is actually recorded. So they're putting fake things so they can say, oh, I don't see evidences or I see evidences, and they're leaving out what's actually recorded. They have recorded remote uses, self-valid, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, all natures of investigations, investigators used remotely criminally foreign influence black pupils. So I'm not even a lawyer. There is a Trantolo and Trantolo. There are others with the syntax as lawyers who have been placing ads through the networks, like with Trantolo and Trantolo. Their syntax is involved with child defenders, sexual, medical, and legal at the same time. Their sources interbranch and other. They are have roles with the interbranch refusing to identify themselves. It's not just legitimately they have gone all this time. Leaving out how the suburbs were designed tactically denatured before America's founders were even born, and Hartford designed as a suburban/urban to unfold, where the houses would become 2-family, 3-family houses. No one owns it. All of a sudden, the means to take care of it, and all the products to I have to replace this type of shingle and all these things at once. They go out. See, well, this is a trap where everyone left out exceptions. They have these things. Oh, well, this makes, the competition will make improvements and the best product will rise. We know that's not true. In other words, they have been used in time, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw, and the differences of parties, because both parties have roles with the Department of Education in the election spots, including town offices and the campuses, still criminally foreign influence with names next to them. Whiting Forensics has state police involved through time with the same house and people tied to them, like this Phil Colello. Phil Colello was increasingly involved with others I don't even know the names of, and I don't know like him. He tried to make a fake exception next to the high school one time. And once from a distance, when someone else was making the fake exception on that side of the high school, they plant evidences on all sides of campuses as a method of identity theft, fraud, slanders, roles. And they increasingly have time collusion with body dumping spots, not just the serial killers, but the same people also have roles with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, involved with the names next to the state judicial branch offices with World Trade Center predicate acts. And further, as these names next to the Department of Education, involved with a principal Bean and a police chief Centron with the house near me /S near me. There are people with the name Jamie Smith and David Smith, and their mother has roles with some doctors and their patients, might have been an undercover police guy, but they have roles with forging names and switching names and all kinds of legal rackets at Hartford Hospital, fake transcripts through the mail, all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes with child offenders, also sexual at the same time. And the judge's family members with the same house, more than 3 judges involved here with the same house, involved with police for refusing to get on papers, forging and switching names, involved with multiple departments involved with them. Kerr, DeMorrow, and with DeMorrow, there's one. I never saw Michael Kerr or Ray Colello on my grammar school campus. Ray Colello and Joe DeMorrow, there was one exception. In other words, and Ray punched me I didn't see it coming. And I punched him back and he fell down. These are people also increasingly, when I was in, I think, 2nd grade, someone told me to go around a corner. I didn't even know who they were. I never even had communicated with them before. Right when I went to the corner, I got punched in the ear by a Rick Sanfaglione. I didn't even know who he was. And then he walked away. No, he kept walking. In other words, I didn't even know what to do. I was in 2nd grade. In other words, I never saw him in a class. I never saw him. He sought me out years later to confess and record people with the name Leahy and Brien Silver are involved with them with various natures of federal crimes, which also confirmations of his roles with a O'Brien family and a Colello family with timed wire crimes with police forms and courts involved, forging names and switching names still. And they're refusing to identify themselves, and they're relying upon how they attach me and everyone around me to fake and change conversations with themselves, also as obstruction of justice, because they have roles with murders and untimely deaths that brought up the child abusers campus to me and the names next to it, who are increasingly involved with Whiting Forensics and the World Trade Center involved with the attack. There are people with the name Scalora who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, have roles with the intelligence community, forced Saudis to roles with it, because also the Saudis were forced to roles too with another name involved. To appreciate this, we have to be able to appreciate, for example, means to discern it. We have to appreciate how the breaching method was a scientific value that our founders communicated to us to address by declassifying means for us to communicate about how they did not have free speech because everyone's speech was measured and maintained, collusions with everyone against them, ourselves as A through Z, all group differences. Otherwise, that body would be sensed, including if it was a majority of people, including if it was everyone. This method had been entrenched and perfected from semi-ancient times before modern countries were founded. That's how slavery stayed entrenched, overt, sickly distinctly against people, but also sickly non-distinctly against everyone simultaneously. slash hyper simultaneously, because there's a further hyper simultaneous breaching method that was using how it had right through the foundations of modern countries, such a torture, extortion, slavery method entrenched, back treatment nature-wise against everyone, therefore physically. Collusions against each other and sustained. So if you're going to break even the extent of it, you're going to be sensed by the others. Because now everyone's relying upon natures of positive treatments as criminal insidiousness natures. Fake difference, relativity to the overt and insidious negatives. See, this breaching method caused negative and value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Knowing that nature itself would show us a human fact treatment nature breaching method is one of the things that is true always. That was the sum of those individual parts, individually grouped together. Both slavery and witch trials. Witch trials, even if they were made up, they're about a human fact treatment nature breaching method, a predicate acts with facts delivery system method, and or criminal insidiousness nature delivery system method. See, we have that forced with natures of logic regarding why and how they're ignoring me. They have people with the name Leahy with their daughter's picture involved further with the fake conversations they have with me, and the Facebook with the other agencies. CIA also has roles with a Kelly Kazmarek, with the state police associated with a Eric Jensen, a Mike Roberts, who also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by my neighbors, involved with them planting evidences on all sides of my house, and their roles with their educators since they were kids. So it's important. There was educators of Ray Colello, Joe DeMauro, and Michael Kerr. I don't know their brothers educators, but them too. They are families with the intelligence community. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed the corners on Church Street since they were kids, and a corner of South State Highway and Town Line Drive. They have federal evidence crimes with judges and prosecutors, overt criminal enterprises, private one, whole bunch of countries, and their educators involved with that. They're putting predicate acts with facts, fake things in databases, and change things into databases at campuses, and the difference of it there or at all sides of people's houses. Joe DeMauro and Heather Hansen have roles with home break-ins, plural in my area, through time, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. As people that sought me out from different parts of town to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm roles with the federal evidences crimes with the Brien Silver, and people tied to them I don't even know their names of. And that's why they had a whole bunch of people like a Robert Rodriguez have to pretend he knew me. There are proofs that the only exception on Maple Street years ago, they must have taken a picture of me standing there when Joe DeMauro was speaking with him, because that's one of the things that they hid. That was recorded other than they were pretending. Also people on all sides of that church there, like Robert Rodriguez, have roles with predicate acts in between campuses and at parks and next to parks, and people associated with a former Mayor Gold, and the one I don't even know the name of next with the and people that work for them, with the people next to the state Department of Education, involved also recorded with the Saudis, including and people tied to a Ray Reynolds and a DeMauro are involved with the Saudi attackers. And Central Connecticut State University has roles with this, with more deans and more child defenders, leaders of kids, tied to ones through time in the past, years apart, that were first forced and then caught. There were time use/S of the people involved with that, including their victims as predators, because everyone's being forced. They have predicate acts methods where they have people repeat things, fake things of others, and sustain that relative to their use/S of predicate acts methods I recorded between the campuses through time consciously. That's why I have not been responded to. You guys have fake conversations with me, with everyone around me, fake motivations for it, because you know I caught you roles with relative murders, but that of the same ones timed roles with other natures of federal crimes with the people associated with the murder of Greg Kyler. Even if it was made up, the news also had collusions with that at the time against Greg Kyler and against others, and the difference of who is, in other words, this breaching method hides rules with a whole bunch of different countries are involved at those corners of streets with those families and their educators. They also are people with the names next to Hartford Hospital as people collusions with the people at Hartford Hospital, attaching little kids and their families to fake conversations with themselves and through the mail and putting it in databases. And others use that to pretend people are liars, etc. And they are delusions raw. We're going to address Black pupils' whites of eyes, how this was left out with nature. Nature communicates to us we have the same color eyes, while we have different color eyes at the same time. With the halos part, where it's communicating to us about difference, where it's communicating to us where and how we have a species volume of it as an individual species body of individuals with group differences being generated by that as the increasing value of the discernment of how there are other species bodies too. And they have quality aspects in nature that are distinct, but they are also non-distinct. And they are simultaneous, but also further hyper-simultaneous. That was not invented or caused by A or B, mostly, but by that further hyper-simultaneous. But we shouldn't have to beg to get them onto paper, one name and sequence. And I want a response for the confessions of the principal child offender. And I want the fake conversations with me, with everyone around me, and with the police departments. That's why I'm asking online. And Facebook has roles with New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page, and the Wethersfield police have a Joshua Schumack and his mother involved with the Joshua Julian confessions of others tied to a Joshua Julian. And a Mark Violet also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed Joshua Julian. He's one of the ones on off Hartford Hospital with medical and sexual offenders in the police forms and the elements of drugs and things like that they use, where and how they put fake things, and no one's going to check it. They're putting fake conversations into mental health care databases and into schools databases. The schools have been changing and faking what's recorded. They have been using the fact that there are parents and interbranch to pretend they can't realize that they're involved with organized crime relative to the readings of statutes that give themselves the benefit of the doubt at the last second. That's why and how relative they already shown they needed to hide things they already did by putting or self-valuing things put there for them too, fake. So I want a response for what I caught them doing with the principal child offender and with a Michael Emmett. It has rules with federal evidences crime, wire crimes, mail crimes, and faked and changed communications with me. And names, and I want a response, a whole bunch of confessions on my answering machine on a whole bunch of different answering machine methods, different confessions a principal child offender made. And I never even got to talk. Every time I kept calling up, they would make more confessions there too. Then they pretend I didn't make sense. See, they're playing games here. They're forcing a quality of fact-checking nature that is criminal insidiousness. I'm not even a lawyer. We're going to delineate their delusions from their criminally foreign influence, fact-checking nature, quality aspects in nature. So there are males and females with the name Leahy, and there are ones with the name Lombardo, also involved with the same houses with untimely deaths and medical offenders and wire crimes and mail crimes through time. And with their patients too, time, they're all with the same houses near me. As people pretended they had conversations with me, and I had life progressions. These are people involved since I was a kid, putting fake things in databases. The courts won't get onto paper because they're caught. They're caught clearer than day. And the roles with CRT. CRT is delusions raw too, where they help people. They have roles with that torture, extortion, slavery method. We're going to examine how the suburbs were only allowed to unfold, tactically denatured, reliant upon food needs from other areas. Exactly the way the breaching method, forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded only allowed and sustained against our founders and against the Native Americans sickly distinctly, but also sickly non-distinctly, which enabled the phenomenon of them to unite. So we're going to examine the three natures of America's founders per nature itself. We're going to show hyper-evidential, the difference between evidence as criminal insidiousness natures of positives, like A, 3, or 4B, In other words, we're going to examine how the impositions on students sickly distinctly is being exploited as collusions, keeping how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned, because that's where we come together as the species body, as unity proper. See, we are a unity as a species body of individual bodies, as independence, because we are unity, independence, simultaneous, because there is a hyper simultaneous that is increasingly valued distinctly from the simultaneous, but also non-distinctly from it, which is also increasingly valued. One way, many pray, vaccines. English was more probably revealed to teach this, but to have to deal with any science properly, we need to have a quality of fact treatment nature that has been offensively affronted since ancient times. So get used to the word, the phrase, criminal insidiousness. Understand this, because there are criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, bullying logic treatments. Also, the time of bullying logic was revealed. We know the databases were criminally foreign influence. They were a key part of the torture, extortion, and fact treatment nature slavery of names A through Z, and their relativity to the databases of the Republic for which we stand, and its campuses system still abridged since semi-ancient times. We're supposed to get the Constitution unabridged. Prepare your minds. Sandy Hook campuses also have roles with confessions and recorded collusions with people named and tied to them named O'Brien. All kinds of evidences, crimes of natures of organized crime with their forced patients and criminals. Recorded, confess, demonstrate, confirm with collusions with the principal child offender to force that. At first and further, there are more people involved with it. I don't know the people named O'Connor. Only reason I was in his class is because others brought him up in their confessions, which were also recorded, other than they were pretending. And I recorded before that them trying to plant fake exceptions, fake recorded reality. And the difference of guilt with it is because there are increasingly a whole bunch of different countries involved with these names. In other words, and then they speak about cultural differences. They can't do that. This breaching method measures and maintains how it assigned black pupils whites of eyes as nature communicates with it. When nature's not as criminal insidiousness nature, it assigned roles for that to communicate criminal insidiousness nature, and then measure and maintain roles, blaming on other things, others ourselves. Where and how every individual has means to discern when they speak about black or white. They are using criminal insidiousness nature, leaving out that breaching method clearer than day. We discern where it was non-distinctly against Native Americans, the way all Americans don't want, even if we are not Native American, sustained. Then America's founders were born. Slavery was already entrenched in northern colonies and southern colonies. Already the method was so deeply entrenched that our founders did not have free speech. They had to force counter-extort the other founders to be founders. And there are proofs that the Native Americans helped them do this. Because besides the fact that the Native Americans can't help but do this, because what they long and are is the volume science unabridged, as everyone is. See, but we're being told to be identities and titles and things through these abridged systems. It wouldn't be bad if you guys would follow mandated law, but you can't do it. See, you guys have roles with murders, intercities, connected, time use /s of it as untimely deaths, 2 ones years apart, where confessions relative next to one of the spots is one of the things that connects them. And time use /s of it, as the people at Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University also involved at the Board of Education with the names next to it, increasingly with the Saudi attackers and the difference of that uses roles. That's why they attach me to fake conversations. They forge the name of a Dr. Shams Ali too. They and or have roles with it. The people with the name Leahy and Lombardo. Also with the people with the Department of the Parks and Recs and the Community Center of Wethersfield is increasingly involved with judges, family members, planting evidences with names on all sides of it and add it. And with this Dillon family and the people planting evidence on all sides of my house with him and the guy who said he's a partner of his. And these are also people who have cousins per them. Per Colello and a DeMorrow said they have a cousin named Scalora. Scalora is one of the ones next to the World Trade Center involved with them with this. And there's a detective Samuda from Central Connecticut State University who has roles with some East Hartford intelligence people and the F.B.I. and some courts family members forging and switching names in federal evidences crimes. Falsified police reports, switching the names with the courts and the police forms so no one could get anything on writing and everyone pretends they don't understand people. They pretend people don't speak clear by preventing people short words proper and with convictions. That's why they have convictions and they have theories that are conviction that are wrought with delusions too and criminally foreign influence, fact, nature, quality, aspects of nature. I'm not even a lawyer. Again, Trantolo is recorded involved used remotely criminally foreign influence, for example, self-valuing, sequence shifts, and federal wire crime and digital crime methods with a digital principal upskirt picture you got. And involved their roles with WTNH, Fox Connecticut News, and WTNH planting evidences with stories. And the difference between that are their collusions with planting fake motivations by planting real ones, like regarding how their sensibilities. Oh, we're just trying to do a regular advertisement. You know, all these natures of industries are a little insidious in its natures, jumping into people's business dishonestly. You don't change or fake things when people speak online about predicate acts. Oh, we're trying to see if you no, get them on paper, one name in sequence. Wethersfield police have been attached me as a kid to fake words there, and then as an adult. I was in the place as an adult. I wasn't even in the place as a kid. In other words, and I had someone else. I spoke something to someone else. They pretend I spoke with the Mendez because these two Mendez police have roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders through time, and they're educators involved with it. I never even had a class with them. They try to make fake exception like real quick, and someone tells me their name, and they do a passion thing so I remember their name. You know, in other words, these are the same ones: wire crimes, falsified police reports, predicate acts with the Wethersfield police, and Sandy Hook. The prisons tied to them. These are names on off the state corrections offices and the state judicial branch offices used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. CRT has all kinds of sick roles: community resource training, with theories intersciences like relativity. Had one silence been English and languages are all about relativity to the hyper-simultaneous, that identity of relativity unobstructed. It's all parts of English grammar individually grouped and together. It is that identity that we appreciate, where and how and why we're actually appreciating, why and how we need more than one name for a verb. How those names are grouped 3 ways distinctly from 5 ways. For example, we'll examine this. Please follow mandated law. I want a response for the police chief Cintron, and he has I never met her, a Jessica Cintron, and a Reno Mazzucato has roles along Route 175, planting a fake exception tied to me, and his roles with a Jonathan Maiano, with a police chief Cintron, and a house that is involved with the other police years ago, and their roles with like Maiano family's house near the Hartford Hospital, and Isles. He has roles with Isles Kitchen near there too, and near Buckley High School, and DeMorrow's Market used to be there, and where DeMorrow's Market is now. They have roles of wire crime, mail crimes, identity theft frauds, a whole bunch of different countries and campuses, and their educators involved with them. And the news. These are also people next to the news locations involved, the difference between them more criminally involved with the acts as subjects or the news. So get me off the fake conversations too, and on paper, I want a response for the courts and police forms. And then we'll get to the criminal enterprises involved with these same names. Criminal enterprises, plural. And fear God for hiding and lying about your motivations to Judge Napolitano. And you're not hiding your roles with these other nations. So don't pretend that you were trying to hide things because like where you have directions to hide things regarding your roles with all these different countries involved. Pakistan, you have Afghan leaders and kids also involved through time with intelligence next to Hartford Hospital, next to Trinity College on Zion Street in Hartford, Connecticut, who had roles of people on my street planting evidences with the intelligence families and their kids. And now they're adults and they're doing the same thing with their kids, getting them involved with strangers, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw. And I want a response for this. There's more violence involved too, and drugs and medicines, crimes and poisons involved. They do some sick things between the campuses connected, and they make people in the future, they can't go back and afford to discern what is actually discerned the way nature wants us to appreciate past active group truth, all ways that we can discern now. And the value, like, for example, of seasons that aren't even here yet, but we know about them now. See, we have been using systems tactical ulterior from how nature uses them. Per nature itself, we're going to examine natural law and how it communicates. We're going to examine uses of names in the nature of debate, how it contains quality aspects of nature that are criminally foreign influence and tactically delusions raw. I shouldn't have to beg all this time, too. And you should get the pin. In other words, there are people all along Route 175 involved, and like there are neighbors of increasingly the people tied to a Delafair family and a Spada family have roles with identity thefts and frauds, and people planting evidences on my street, like the name Colello involved with the Wethersfield police and the Rocky Hill police with the O'Briens and the people next to Central Connecticut State. All sides of Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut have people that planted collusions with federal crimes there and on my street and at other campuses, intercities. There are people next to campuses, intercities, involved with the cousins of the ones who I never even saw around campuses there, trying to make fake exception real fast. That's one of the things that ties those people. And the fake conversations with me with this Leahy family and the judges involved with them personally and professionally, their family members. In other words, so I barely know so it's all along Route 3. People will confess this to you if you ask them right. And they were influenced to need to make it to be a nature of confessions per the rules with this Delafair family, with probate judges, a whole bunch of people that know my names, I don't even know their name, including his kids. That's why they make confessions so they can lie about people's motivations years later, make it look like they had conversations or the things they recorded were true. These are also people with the boxing gyms planting federal evidences crimes with proven child abusers, leaders of kids, as the ones tying roles with it, because they have differences, rackets. They have to keep the real causes of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures at all locations, let alone the cities, let alone the exceptions. We are in a semi-ancient trap. So don't change or fake what I say. Stay focused on the predicate acts and the fake conversations with me and the interbranch switching and forging names. Get them on paper, one name in sequence now. Fake branches. Bow. Get off the thing.